Welcome to Learn at Work, a webinar series presented by the journal Work, a journal of prevention, assessment, and rehabilitation. The publisher of Work is iOS Press in the Netherlands, and we're happy to present the 2018 series of Learn at Work in cooperation with Human Factors and Ergonomic Society. I'm Karen Jacobs, the founding editor of Work, and I'll be your moderator today. I'm going to turn over the webinar now to our speaker, and I know you will thoroughly enjoy his presentation. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Elpidoforos Sodiriadis. I'm an occupational medicine physician, epidemiologist, and I work in Cyprus, an island in the Mediterranean Sea. I'm going to present a workplace modified duty program for employees in an oncology center that was implemented in Cyprus and that was evaluated and the results published in the journal Work. I like to start my presentation with a motto of our occupational medicine specialty, which is find a job that you enjoy and you will never work again, because this is not going to be a work anymore. It's going to be an enjoyable activity. The presentation will run over a brief introduction, then I'll talk briefly on employee disability outcomes and highlight the temporary partial job disability that we often see at workplaces regarding the activities of employees. I will then describe the modified duties program and modified duty policy that we developed at this oncology center in Cyprus. And then I will present the results of the 2-year evaluation of the program that was completed a couple of years ago. And I will conclude and offer my suggestions and recommendations regarding this important issue, which refers to the modified duty programs at different workplaces. We all know that sickness absence is a major issue at the workplace. It interferes with many different aspects, including one of the most important aspects referring to employee health and well-being. And of course, sickness absence is associated with either workplace accidents and or occupational diseases for the most part, but also it is associated with other illnesses that employees develop during the course of their productive life. The sickness absence, of course, has a lot of repercussions, including financial issues for both employees and employers, depending on the occupational arrangements, as well as the national health insurance schemes that run in different countries. And of course, sickness absence has a major, most usually negative impact on work productivity and losses for both employees and employers alike. There are basically two outcomes associated with sickness absence, either short-term disability and long-term disability for employees. The disability outcomes are usually divided into two main categories, either temporary disability, job disability, and permanent job disability. When an employee develops a temporary complete disability, um, it usually will see a physician or another health professional and stay home on a sick leave absence. When an employee, however, develops a temporary partial job disability, different outcomes may lead to different workplace arrangements. On the other hand, on a permanent complete job disability, an employee will usually end up with premature retirement, whereas on a permanent partial job disability, an employee may either stay at the same organization or company or business, but change his duties in order to be able to perform a different uh, um, uh, to work in a different field, or he may choose to change job settings and uh, choose to work for another organization where the partial permanent job disability will not be an obstacle for him to continue to have a productive life. So one of the, as we can see on this figure, a workplace accident or an occupational illness or any other accident or illness developed by an employee may lead to job disability, either temporary or permanent. One of the most important arms of this temporary job disability is the temporary partial job disability, where an employee develops a disability to perform his complete duties or her complete duties. However, in under this option, employees may follow different pathways. Um, a number of employees who develop temporary partial job disability may not even seek medical advice and may continue to work on their regular duties, whereas they may actually have a lower productivity. A different group of employees who develop temporary partial job disability may actually seek medical advice, and they may end up staying at home on a sick leave absence based on the recommendation of their personal or primary care physician. In this case, there is a gap between the ability of the employee to perform some of their uh, workplace duties and the fact that they actually choose to stay at home, and therefore there is a loss of productivity. And there are other negative consequences with this option. For example, it is well known that employees end up developing a vicious cycle of psychological negative affect if they stay for a long time at home, being on a sick leave absence, especially when they are actually temporarily partially job disabled and they feel that they may be able to be productive, but they don't have the opportunity to do so. And they stay at home and they start feeling that they are not useful for their family or their society or their own organization that they work for. Therefore, for employees who develop temporary partial job disability, there should be another option, and that is a modified duty program. So as we can see on this slide, three different options are available for employees who develop partial job disability, either to go to regular work and perhaps have lower productivity and also run the risk of even worsening their condition while at work. There is the option of people who may choose to stay at home on a sick leave absence and therefore wasting their productive ability in a way. And there is also an option of using a modified duty program at their organization in order to continue to be active, in order to continue to be productive, and also stay energetic at their organization and not end up in this vicious cycle of negative affect. However, the problem that arises frequently is that these modified duty programs are usually rare and scarce, and they and the majority of employees do not have this option at their workplace. This is why we chose to develop a modified duty program at this oncology center in Cyprus. The Bank of Cyprus Oncology Center is a tertiary level specialized hospital that provides treatment to cancer patients on the island of Cyprus. This oncology center is a relatively small hospital with about 200 employees, out of which 70% are female employees. The workforce of the Bank of Cyprus Oncology Center is made up of doctors, nurses, pharmacists, paramedics, radiology technicians, administrative staff, and other auxiliary staff. This is a 32-bed facility, and it provides treatment coverage for almost 70 to 80% of cancer patients of the island of Cyprus. The Oncology Center was established back in 1998, and this was a facility that was established based on a public-private partnership between the government of Cyprus and the Bank of Cyprus. It is governed by a government-appointed board of directors, and the financial support comes from both the government and the local Bank of Cyprus. This is a picture of the Bank of Cyprus Oncology Center, which is located in Nicosia, the city of Nicosia, which is the capital of Cyprus. In order to offer this opportunity to employees, we developed a modified duty program that offered options of modified work activities and modified work duration for employees who would develop a health problem that would lead to a temporary partial job disability. The limited duties were a number of different options, such as avoiding weightlifting, avoiding manual work, avoiding computer work, as well as offering different options for employees who would like to change their duties during the duration of their health problem. In addition, the modified duty program offered the option of reduced work days, offering three different options: 2 hours per day work, 4 hours per day work, and 6 hours per day work. The 2-hour work day was included in the program in order to be used on a limited basis only for employees who were absent for a long period of time and we would like to offer them the option of returning back to their workplace on a short duration in order to start being accommodated again in the workplace and start being active on a gradual basis, so as to be able to gradually return back to their workplace environment. In order to establish this modified duty program at the Oncology Center, we developed a detailed written policy that was discussed between the administration of the Oncology Center. It was also discussed between the members of the Health and Safety Committee of the Oncology Center. And after being completed, the written policy was presented to the Board of Directors, which approved the implementation of the policy at the center. The written policy offered different options to the employees who would develop a health problem and would like to take advantage of this modified duty program. It offered the option of a partial modified duty that was either allowing the employee to continue their regular duties on a reduced workday schedule, or offered the option of an employee to work a full day on a regular workday schedule but on limited duties, and also a combination of the two, offering the option of to the employees to come to work on limited duties and also on a reduced workday schedule for a smaller duration of work per day. It also had another major option for employees who would have a serious problem but still would like to come to work. It offered the option of a full modified duty, assigning the employee on a different position on regular workday schedule. The policy offered the option of a modified duty program to the employees for a duration of a minimum of 7 days to a maximum of 90 days. And it also had specific arrangements for the compensation of the employees and the full cost of the program. The major arrangement regarding the compensation of employees was the fact that it allowed employees who would return back to their workplace on a modified duty program to receive full payment as if they were working on a full schedule for regular duties. It also allowed for the employees to count this modified duty program as a full service that would be counted either for a regular absence from work, and also allowed to be counted for issues of promotion at work. The policy also had several administrative arrangements, the most important of which was the fact that it established a regular surveillance for the assignment of modified duty policy in order to collect specific data to be able to evaluate the program at a later stage. And this is what gave us the opportunity to perform this evaluation and publish the results. This is the main results of the evaluation that we performed at the 2-year interval after the initiation of the program. The time of modified duty program assigned to different employees ranged from 10 to 65 days. with a mean duration of 21 days. And there was a major financial gain comparing modified duty to sick leave absence for employees. And the gains for employees ranged from 120 to 6,435 euros, depending on the time, on the duration of the modified duty program for different employees. Um, As you may see on this slide, a total of 12 employees participated in the modified duty program over the 2-year period of program evaluation. This is a very small percentage of the total workforce of the Oncology Center, 3% of the total workforce. It is interesting to see that all 12 employees were women that utilized the program, and half of the employees who participated in the modified duty program um, did that in the course of their pregnancy. And the majority of days assigned to the modified duty program to these employees, to these female employees, was 66% of the total days assigned to the modified duty program. It is also quite interesting and not surprising that the second most frequent cause of modified duty program was assigned to employees due to the back pain, which is one of the most frequent uh, health reasons for sick leave absence, especially in the hospital setting. The majority of employees were assigned to a reduced workday schedule, meaning reduced hours of work. On this table, you may see the results of the modified duty program over the 2-year period. As you may see, there were only females participating in the program. We had 6 employees in the first year of participation and 6 employees in the second year of participation. We only had 1 physician. Most of the study participants were nurses, and a couple of pharmacists and paramedics, and 2 administrative staff. As you can see, half of the employees participated due to pregnancy, and then due to back pain and neck pain, basically musculoskeletal disorders. We also had 1 case who participated in this program as in their post-operative course, and the majority of participants basically utilized the option of both reduced workday schedule and limited duties. You can see 10 out of 12 employees used the combination of reduced hours of work and limited duties at work during their participation in the modified duty program. To conclude this brief presentation of this modified program, I would like to say that the relatively short evaluation of this program was a quite useful demonstration of an applied modified duty program in a specialized hospital setting. It is interesting to note that these kind of programs, particularly in a hospital setting, are very rare in the international occupational arena, and also publications on evaluation of such programs is also scarce in the international medical literature. And this small yet nice program that was implemented at the Oncology Center in Cyprus represents an overall successful modified duty program that could serve as a model for other occupational settings as well as other countries. It demonstrated a limited but targeted use of such a program by employees. Um, the reasons why this participation was quite limited, if we compare the numbers of employees participating in this program, may be associated first with the fact that this program was a new um, program implemented at this oncology center, and the evaluation basically focused on the first 2 years of the program implementation. However, it could also be associated with unjustified fears and resistance that was exhibited by different managers of the center. Um, the managers of the centers basically feared that this option, this available modified program, would end up being used by everybody, and that the all employees would choose to take advantage of this modified duty program, and that everyone would be on modified duties, and that no one would be available to do regular work and full duties on the job. As showed up from the evaluation, these fears were unjustified, and the resistance brought up from managers, and sometimes I would say the resistance brought up from co-workers were not also justified. And so this modified duty program could serve as a wonderful initiative that may serve as a paradigm and model also for legislative approaches in different countries. Um, we chose to develop this program as a private initiative at a hospital setting, which was a public-private um, um, organization and facility. And it was quite easy to do so because we had the option of approving this program from the board of directors of the institution. These kind of programs would be very difficult to implement in the public sector without having the support of a detailed legislation to cover and approve these kind of programs. Therefore, I think that these kind of initiatives should be supported by legislative support from different in different countries in order to offer this opportunity to the public sector. Um, for one major reason, being seen in Cyprus, and I believe being seen in other countries as well, from my experience from other countries, the fact that sick leave absence is quite higher in the public sector compared to the private sector. And therefore, these kind of modified duty programs may help the public sector to reduce sick leave absence and improve productivity, and also improve the morale of the employees, and help to cultivate a culture of employees being willing to return back to work as early as possible following a health problem, and a culture of employees who would avoid this vicious cycle of sickness and staying at home for a long period of time, which end up affecting their own health in a negative way. So concluding this short presentation regarding the modified duty programs, I would like to offer different recommendations to fellow occupational physicians around the world, and also researchers and policymakers. I think that there is a a great need to implement larger programs of modified duty in different occupational settings in order to evaluate their potential positive effects on reducing sickness absence. In addition, we need to evaluate this concept of modified duty program not only in private but also in the public occupational settings, as I referred to previously. Um, Applying these modified duty programs, we need to do that having in mind the fact that it is extremely important to uh, make the arrangements in advance in order to be able to evaluate these programs by collecting useful information during the implementation of these modified duty programs in order to evaluate different aspects of such programs. For example, to see the acceptability of modified duty programs by employers and employees alike in different occupational settings, including the public and the private sector. In addition, we need to evaluate the utilization of these programs by employees in order to see whether fears and resistance from managers and other administrations are justified, or whether these programs actually are well received by employees and employers, and whether these programs do not lead to the development of the so-called moral hazards at work. In addition, it is extremely important to collect appropriate information during the implementation of these programs in order to assess potential financial gains, not only for employees, but also for organizations, and also evaluate the overall cost of such programs. Because I think that the cost of the implementation of such modified duty programs is very small, and the financial gains for employees as well as employers are much larger. And presenting such information documented by appropriate research studies would encourage employers and employees as well as governments and policymakers to spread the implementation of such programs across the national workforce of each country. It is also important to see whether having a modified duty program at work has a significant impact on sick leave absence or absentees in the workplace. Also, we don't know what is the best allowable duration of such modified duty programs for each workplace. In our case, we sort of decided to make this program available for a duration ranging from 7 to 90 days. I would say sort of arbitrarily, based on our personal experience from the Oncology Center. However, having different programs implemented at different occupational settings for different durations would give us the opportunity to evaluate this issue and arrive at the best possible solution for allowing people to utilize these programs for a specific duration. In addition, I'm personally wondering whether having a modified duty program with flexible options, such as allowing people to work from home during their rehabilitation following a sickness absence, would add better options and help employees to utilize this program and also be productive from their home. We all know that current information and communication technologies, as well as other technology we have today with the web allows people to work from different settings as well as their own homes. And so I was wondering whether these kind of modified duty programs could also be offering the options of home-based modified duty programs. And also, of course, it is important to explore the issue of moral hazards and whether having such programs available to employees has any negative impacts um, on their performance, work productivity, or other negative consequences. I strongly believe that this small yet successful modified duty program applied in Cyprus at the Oncology Center serves as a model program to offer the opportunity for legislators and policymakers around the world to consider specific initiatives to offer the opportunity of modified duty programs in the public as well as the private sector uh, for the benefit not only of employees but also employers and the national productivity in general. We know that there is a a large pool of avoidable sickness absence among employees. From my personal experience, as well as from the international medical literature, um, looking at this issue, the pool of avoidable sickness absence is a significant gap between the people and employees who stay at home and the loss of productivity. And I believe that modified duty programs represent one of the best solutions to this gap between employees who are able to perform at least part of their duties and those who choose to stay at home on a sick leave absence. I would like to thank you very much for your attention, and I'm open to any questions on this topic.
Thank you so very much for this fascinating presentation. You know, I've read your article before, and it was even more interesting to hear you present it. I've never been to Cyprus. Now I am putting that on my bucket list if that is a photo of Cyprus. Thank you so much.
Everyone is welcome to come to Cyprus, and please feel free to contact me if you ever choose to come to Cyprus. I'll be happy to welcome you in our home country.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So you provided such challenges to all of us, you know, to reach out to our legislators, policymakers, to make change. You've challenged us as clinicians and researchers. So I'd like to challenge you here. And
Yeah.
you've mentioned some of this already. If you had unlimited resources to conduct another study, what would you do? What would be your vision? You mentioned lots of recommendations, but what would resonate with you personally for your next study? And again, no limited funds here.
Yeah. Yeah.
A fantasy, right?
Yeah. Well, this is this is a very interesting question. Um, as I presented in the beginning of my talk, the options of modified duty programs. Basically, I'm going back actually now in my presentation to give you the options are either when an employee develops a job disability, the option is whether the is whether the employee would have a temporary health problem, or a permanent health problem. And in my search in the international literature, and also on different organizations and different countries, I have seen that there are actually a lot of programs, uh, policy policies, national policies, as well as legislative approaches to offer different options for people who develop permanent partial disability. For example, there are different programs in Canada, Australia, and different other countries to offer educational and retraining programs for people who develop permanent disabilities in order to retrain these employees and be able to find productive jobs on the market. However, there are very scarce, I would say almost no available programs for modified duty programs for employees who develop temporary job disability. And therefore, my personal experience is that most of these employees who develop some health problems or even are involved in an accident and have some partial disability, most of them, I would say the vast majority of them, choose to stay at home on sick leave absence. And therefore, I think that if I had unlimited funds to look at this problem, I would go on a two pathway model. I would choose to request from the government to develop an initiative, a legislative initiative, to allow us to develop such programs both in the public and the private sector. And I would use these funds first to educate not only health professionals, but also employees and employers and managers on this particular issue, point out the particular arrangements and aspects of this problem, because I think education is an extremely important issue on this modified duty program. And then having done a legislative approach, having succeeded in initiating a legislative approach, and having educated the whole workforce and the main health professionals involved in this issue, I would implement the application of modified duty programs at different settings in both the public and the private sector and different organizations, and implement a study to evaluate the effect of these programs, not only on the utilization of employees, not only on the resistance and barriers of employers and managers, not only on the financial gains of the employees and the organizations, but also on the overall financial gains for the society as a whole. I think that the application of such a widespread issue on a national basis would have a very positive impact on different aspects, and would also have secondary gains, not only financial but also cultural, a lot of gains. Because my small experience from this oncology center shows that this modified duty program had helped in cultivating an environment of support, an environment of collaboration, an environment of acceptance between employees and employers, between managers and subordinates. And I think this kind of collaborative environment would have very many secondary gains for employees, employers, and the national economy.
Thank you. I think I got you very excited about all these possibilities.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's true that there are a lot of possibilities for this program, and the modified duty programs um, are a necessity because there is a major gap now in this particular aspect where partial job disability is not addressed almost nowhere.
yes, and I want to challenge you to think about being a guest editor of a special section or issue of the work journal just on modified duty programs that are happening around the globe.
Mm,
Perhaps having such a special issue or special section could be used to bring forth to legislators and policymakers because the evidence really speaks volumes for its importance.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is a great idea, actually. I think it would be interesting to see whether people are starting to think seriously about this particular aspect, whether they are working on different research projects on this particular parameter. Yeah, that would be a great opportunity.
Yes, so I'll follow up with that with you. We do have one question from Sue. Sue's in the
Mhm.
UK. She wrote, were the reduced hours for 5 days, or were there any reduced days as well as reduced hours each day?
Could you please repeat the question?
Sure. Sue asked, were the reduced hours for 5 days, or were there any reduced days as well as reduced hours each day? I guess she's asking about what
Yeah,
modified duty program looked like.
yeah, I understand. I understand. Yeah. No, we didn't have reduced days per week. We only have reduced hours per day. When we offered the modified duty program to an employee, we were expecting him or her to come to work on a 5-day schedule on reduced hours. Um, um, yeah, but this question brings another issue at hand as well. Whether having a modified duty program with reduced days per week would be also a valid option. I think that this is also a valid option for people to consider in developing modified duty programs. Also, I would like to, this question brings to me the opportunity to say that we chose to apply a similar modified duty program at another sort of public-private organization, and um, because there were legislative limitations on offering a modified duty program for people and still retaining the full payment compensation for those on modified duty programs, we chose to choose we chose to have a policy in the modified duty program that allowed employees to utilize hours of extra work or overtime work that they had accumulated over time in their work, to utilize them in the modified duty program to use a reduced hours per day on a modified duty program. So that was another option of, instead of, for example, using the overtime or extra time to sort of take more uh, leave of absence from work, we allowed people to use these for modified duty programs, and it was also quite successful. It was also quite a successful option for them.
Wonderful. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So we're going to conclude now, but I want to ask, are there any special thoughts you want to leave our listeners about, modified duty programs or anything? I think you have an appointment also at Harvard. Are you doing any work in the Boston area too?
Not for the moment. I have, I continue basically my collaboration with the Harvard School of Public Health in the area of my doctoral thesis focus, which was firefighters' health. I have done a lot of work on the health of firefighters, and I continue this collaboration with them. But I haven't done any work on modified duty programs or job disability issues. Uh, Although we have looked at job disability outcomes among firefighters, but from a different perspective.
That would
Yeah,
that would be a very interesting article for you to submit to the work journal too. So I'll put a little plug in.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you so very much for giving this very interesting, insightful presentation. I feel very excited about um, understanding modified duty programs even more and even broadly, and how each of us can be an agent of change in using the evidence literature to support how important this is. One area that I'm very interested in is the delivery of services using telehealth technology. And you mentioned, people working from home in this modified duty program. And I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
hope employers consider that.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Well, I absolutely agree with this. And actually, in this second organization, where we applied this modified duty program, there was one case where one opportunity from a female employee who had a serious health problem. Yet she was very productive in her work, and she was doing a very special. She had very special duties, and we tried to apply these. Although we didn't have any options in the written policy, we tried to apply this modified duty program for her to work from home in order to allow this opportunity for her to offer her expertise. So it was my pleasure to participate in this webinar, and thank you very much for your uh, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. And thank
Thank,
you, our
thank,
viewers as well. We'll
thank,
conclude now. And the recording of this Learn at Work webinar will be on the Learn at Work YouTube channel soon. Thanks again.
thank you.